Hello, everybody. It is Dean Z speaking to you from my basement. And today I want to talk to you about the reapplication process. Got a great question from Connie B in the comments. So thank you very much to Connie for that. About suppose she applies to Michigan, doesn't get in, and then reapplies. Will that be held against her? Absolutely not. Definitely not. But let us dive into the particulars, because there's three different scenarios where you might have applied and then chosen to reapply down the line. One is you apply and you don't get in. One is you apply and you got waitlisted but didn't get in ultimately. And one is you applied and you got in and for some reason didn't enroll and then apply in a future year. I'm going to talk about each of those. So number one, if you apply before and then you reapply, does the school know it? Yes. I think all schools, I know Michigan knows it, and my understanding of other schools' processes is that all schools will be aware if you applied in a future year. Do we see the materials that you used? For Michigan, the answer is for the last 2 years, we will look at them. Earlier than that, this seems so indelicate to say, but earlier than that, we shred those materials. Does that seem rude? I don't know. You only have a limited amount of storage space. So if it's earlier than 2 years, we won't have those materials available. Schools that don't use paper, I don't, and they may have it going back infinitely. So I don't know how far back they would look at your materials if they have them available to you. But that comes up because people will often say, can you please go back and use my materials from a prior cycle for this new application? And that is the tricky part here, because number one, yes, if you want us to do that, we will happily do it. But as a practical matter, you have to think this is for the people who applied and didn't get in. It didn't work out for you in that earlier cycle. So maybe there's something you can do to improve your chances that would make reusing your old materials not a great idea. So obviously there's a lot of different elements to any law school application. You need to step back and think, what were the parts of mine that could have been strengthened, and approach it from that point of view. So maybe it's fine to reuse your letters of rec. Maybe those are great, but you need to write a new personal statement. I almost always would say use a new personal statement, because at a minimum, it's been a significant amount of time in your life since you last applied, like maybe a year. And so, maybe there's something more about you that would be good for a personal statement in that intervening period. But you could ask us to reuse it, or maybe an optional statement. That's something, an optional essay, that might be something you want us to reuse. That's totally fine. But like I say, I would definitely view it from the point of view of how can I spruce up whatever I submitted before. And it will not be held against you for the very practical reason is it actually speaks well of you. It says, from our point of view, it says that you are so interested in the school that you're willing to go through the trouble of applying more than once, going to that trouble, going to that expense. And so that actually always wins my heart a little. And when I could admit somebody who didn't get in an earlier cycle, that's like my favorite thing. So don't have any hesitation from that point of view. Okay, second scenario is when you apply, you get waitlisted, you don't get off the wait list. Okay, in that scenario, you can feel a little bit better, like that your materials were all everything they should be, but you didn't quite get over the finish line. So again, I think it is worth stepping back and seeing how can I improve on those materials, but you maybe have less to do to change the outcome there. Maybe it's a question of just applying a little earlier in the cycle or something like that. Sometimes over the course of an admissions cycle, people can actually develop relationships with people in the admissions office. If that's your case, I would suggest reaching out to someone and saying, hey, if you have any advice for me about how I can improve my chances on a second go round, please let me know. They might be willing to share that with you. That's in general something that offices are a little trepidatious about getting into, because you are more or less a relative stranger to the admissions office, and people feel awkward about giving critiques in that way, especially when they are also trying to, at some level, to recruit you. So maybe that will work out. Maybe not. Could be worth a try. The The final scenario, though, is when you have applied, you have been admitted, and then for some reason you have not chosen to enroll, and then you're reapplying. So you want to control for the possibility that maybe you left some sore feelings in your wake of your withdrawal from the school in the earlier go-round. And you want to make sure you address that head on. So sometimes people withdraw very late in the cycle. And that can be, discomforting to an admissions office because that puts them usually in a little bit of an awkward situation. So if that's what you've done, you really need to make sure you address it. You got to assume they're going to remember it, and you have to explain why that happened. Just be, this is my ongoing advice. Be direct. Take the bull by the horns. Maybe you were admitted and for whatever reason you just never responded, so you never actually withdrew. That's also something to note. Like, we do keep track of that. So I like it when people let me know that they aren't going to be joining us for whatever reason. And if you just never answer, not as polite. So, think about that. Make sure you address it in a reapplication. None of this is fatal. You just want to address it, right? And I'd be wary. Sometimes people say, I was admitted and I didn't get enough financial aid, so now I am reapplying. I would be wary about that because, all right, first of all, sometimes when people do that, now I want to be clear, it is a fact of life that admissions and financial aid go hand in glove, and that financial aid is an extremely important part of the admissions process. But sometimes when people have said that in applications to me, they actually did get a pretty generous financial aid award. So that makes me think, all right, maybe they're gunning for a different school, or I don't know, maybe they think it has to be a full ride for them to come, which we get very few of. So it's very unclear to me what they are driving at in that scenario. If I've given them an award and now they're saying it wasn't enough, that's worrisome to me. And that's a reason not to admit, well, I don't know. I don't think I can meet your expectations. So I don't think I'll go through this again. Or maybe you really didn't get any financial aid, but again, it depends on the school. Maybe they don't give out a lot of aid. And again, is there something different about your application that would result in a different outcome? You just need to be a little careful if financial aid was your concern and you are reapplying. I don't know that I would be explicit about that in my materials. Okay, I think that is everything I wanted to cover on the subject of reapplying. Again, thank you to Connie B for this excellent question. And now it is time for the grammar portion of our program. I want to talk about the phrase, the reason why is because. This is a particular bane of existence for my best friend from law school, who is a judge, which I threw out there to show how much more authority she has than I do, and how important this advice is. It's coming from a judge, not just from me, so you really should listen. Basically, once you use the phrase the reason, you don't need to say why, and you don't need to say because. You don't need to say, and you certainly don't need to say both of them. So this is all part of my advice to keep language as simple as possible. Just get to your point. So just say, the reason is yada, yada, yada. The why and the because, they are redundant. And so get rid of them. Edit them right out. Very straightforward. All right. So that's all I got today. Would love to hear your feedback and suggestions. Please put anything you want to tell me in the comments below, or send us an email to law.jd.admissions@umich.edu and put vlog in the subject line. We really love getting the comments. It is super helpful. And if you found this helpful, you might want to also check out my admissions blog. There's a link to that below. Finally, many thanks to Dustin Johnston. He was on vacation last week. I barely survived. So glad he's back. Hope he's super duper relaxed. All right, wherever you go, go blue.